So this morning we're talking to Laura, um, and I think we've already talked about this, but I'm just going to kind of let you speak at me about um, kind of what brought you to Muma Nurture, how your experience here was, anything you want to tell me really.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those things that when I had my first son, I thought, oh, I'd love to maybe share what happened in the journey to have him. And then little did I know that obviously the secondary infertility that we experienced was way worse. So when I was given opportunities to maybe talk about the entire thing, I thought it would be a really good idea, just because I think actually you look back and you think, gosh, it really 6 years ago started, and actually it's longer than that mentally and emotionally, the investment into it. But the actual physical start of IVF has been 6 years. I'm like, that is a very long time. And I think we maybe I've spoken previously about it doesn't ever really leave you.
Mm-hmm.
That I think you sometimes feel like you're still in it, even though you're not. But it really doesn't ever really leave you because I think it shapes you as a person. So, whether or not it could help people or just to sometimes listen to think, oh, I resonate with that. I understand that. That's so me. And I think it does help when I'm addicted to looking at people on social media about all their IVF journeys and what they're doing. And, when they get a positive from, yay, go you. And then when they don't, you're like, oh, I feel really bad. And then you still feel like, what about me? And then it's really hard to remember that actually you do have children. It's always that constant feeling that it's been unsuccessful, and I think that's still with me, and I try to learn how to live with that. I think is quite difficult. But yeah, I suppose I always think, oh God, have I got the dates right? I always get confused. I think officially we realised that we were struggling at the beginning of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We had been trying naturally and it wasn't working, and I think sometimes you deep down know that maybe there's something not quite right, and I didn't have a clue what really was the case. But I think 2017, out of all the years to my life so far, there's been one of the hardest. It pushed every emotional being I had, and it tested relationships. It was awful. And we were less. I think I turned 30 as well, and I was like, it was like, once you turn 30, your fertility just goes, which is so not true. That you're like, I'm going to run out. I'm never going to have children. What? So many what ifs. And you know, I didn't actually have the full egg collection, my first egg collection, until the beginning of 2019. So it took 2 years from that point. And that was a really hard 2 years because it was like, why are we not starting? Obviously, there's waiting, you've got to wait. And then we had some operations. My husband had to have an operation. And then I had an abandon cycle as well, previously to that. And so it took ages to even get to that point. And I think, I was excited when I first started, and I was like, "Oh, gonna have a baby, and it's gonna be so exciting." And I remember saying, "I'm so happy for you." And I don't actually mind that people say that. I think some people get annoyed with it. I don't, because actually people care and they genuinely don't have a clue what IVF means. So they think it means you're going to get a baby, and they mean it from the bottom of the heart. I'm really happy. I'm really excited. And I think, oh, okay, like if you've never done it before, why would you not get excited? Because you think it's going to happen. And for me, that I had a really good success rate in terms of like getting the eggs out to ratio to embryos to good quality. I always remember the fertility clinic being like, "You've superseded our expectations. I don't quite understand what has happened, but you've the statistics of the 50% drop off that didn't happen. I think I had six eggs or 9 eggs taken out, 6 were fertilized, and 3 were frozen. It's quite high in terms of so many. Some people don't even have anything to transfer because the drop off rate is crazy. And, the first time I had the embryo transfer, I did have an early chemical miscarriage, which was horrible. And then it was so new to me; it was all a bit of a blur. But then we went for an embryo transfer maybe a couple of months after that, and I got pregnant with my first son. So I think that first experience for me was quite a positive one. So I think when he was born, I was like, I want to be able to share my happy journey, because even though it was stressful, it was horrible. I had a baby within a year of starting IVF. That's very, I think.
And you'd had just the one fresh and the one frozen cycle. Yeah, so that would feel.
And I'd been pregnant both times as well.
Yeah, so that's fairly high success, isn't it?
I was like, okay, well, that's amazing. That's so good. Why do we even need IVF? We've got this little complacency that, everything's going to be okay. And I was always championing IVF then. And I really thought that's, wow, like what a gift. And we had one and left in the freezer as well. So I was like, we're going to have another baby and it's going to be really easy. And I think I had lost loads of weight the year after I had Seb. And I was like the fittest I'd been for years. I thought, I'm definitely going to get pregnant again. My body's so ready for it. And we just paid the small marginal amount of money it is at the time, because I didn't need that many drugs, because they said your health and stuff. It was like maybe £2,000 in total, including the drugs, to get that embryo transfer. And we were so excited. Everyone was like, oh, I can't. And we told people, oh my God, we told people, I can't believe we did it. We're going to try and have another baby. And I think lots of my friends that had babies the same time as me, first time round, they were already pregnant, or one of my friends was already in the IVF cycle. My best friend was already pregnant. And it's like, oh, it's going to be perfect. We're all going to have our second child together. And I remember getting that negative test when we had that. And I knew it when the embryo was put in me. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. It's not going to work. And the clinic was so complacent. They're like, oh, it's going to work because it's the same batch from the last. And I was like, oh, is it? And I knew that it wasn't going to work. I just had this feeling. And it felt I was in pain. I don't know, maybe the medication was wrong. When we got that negative test, I was absolutely heartbroken, because what that stood for was like the end of maybe the healthy IVF, or the only IVF journey that we had that was a positive one. And I know that my husband was really upset. We felt like we'd lost Seb's twins, I think, really, because they were the ones that were made, and we secretly wanted it to work, because then it would have been a twin, and we didn't really know what to think. We just thought, oh, don't worry, we'll try again. Look what happened last time. Oh gosh. And I think this is the part where I hope that for anyone that have had a positive IVF approach and then have gone to try again, it is such a lottery. It's such a lottery. I don't even think there's any rhyme or reason to have it work. I know so many people that have had it fail, success. A couple of my friends have had success. They've just had babies. They've never, and you're like, what? How does that happen? And then people that you've had like 6 or 7 embryo transfers, and it never works.
Yeah, I only ever had unsuccessful IVF. I have got children, but I conceived them naturally, beyond all odds, at some point in my 40s. Yeah,
potluck. I believe, and the thing is, it's not. And then you would think, well, then you're just not deserving of that luck. I just don't know what makes it work. I don't. But the secondary journey that we had was hell. If I'm totally honest, it was absolutely awful. We tried, and I think I'm not a very good responder to the protocols and stuff. And they got a minimum amount, even though my AMH is really high. I got 4 eggs or something. It was terrible, result. And I think, if I'm honest, there was a latter admission they'd messed up. They didn't look at. They just, they didn't look at me as a person. They looked at the holistic protocol approach, and that doesn't work for everybody. And I think that's also not necessarily a failing, but everyone is so different. And I get sometimes maybe why you go to the really specialist clinics in London where they do 24-hour testing. Maybe that. I don't know, but I know people that have had that and still haven't had a successful. It's one of those things. But that was the first miscarriage I had after Seb. I think probably was the one that still hits hard for me. It was, the clinic called it a chemical, but it wasn't. It was close enough to 6 weeks. I don't really care what the cut-off points are. You feel what you feel about how early or late, whatever. A loss is a loss, but that's the one that I still, to this day, I really thought it was going to be okay. I just, lots of different reasons. I think I had the embryo transfer on my son's birthday, and it was just one of those things. It felt so right, and then when it went wrong, those feelings affect me now. Definitely, it's awful. Just that I don't sometimes allow myself to feel hopeful, because that feeling that I had, it genuinely broke me inside a little bit, and I still am broken from it, and I have memories of it. I have, through the help of Muma Nurture, I have learned I had some really healthy ways of saying goodbye, and understanding that that is in the past, but it's still part of me. And I have got better at allowing those emotions to come out. I'm very, probably, I thought I was going to cry then, and I didn't. I'm quite good at cutting that emotion off sometimes, but it was such a hard part of the journey that I just for some reason thought that was it. And then we went on to have another go, and it didn't work, and that was terrible. I knew it, but like, I just knew it had. I was like, why are we even bothering to do this? It's a complete waste of money, complete waste of time. Something's not right. And then I did put my hand up to the clinic and say, look, I'm not happy with this. But, and I think sometimes that your own body. You're saying you managed to have a baby naturally, like you did that yourself. Probably don't know why, but you did it yourself. But having that ownership of your own self is that your own body. So like you trust these fertility clinics implicitly to go and put all these hormones in you. I think sometimes if you're like, no, I'm not really happy with that, I definitely would say, no, it's not working. My body's not responding. I want something to change. Because actually, I was told the 2 days before my third egg collection, there's no other protocols available to you. And then I latterly learned there were two more that I could have had. And I think that was £12,000 wasted, because I was told no, when actually there was two. And in the end, one of those, the long protocol that we went down the route for another two more egg collections, did actually result in another baby. It took me a long time to get there, but I was like, no, I'm sorry. And I think that ownership of trying to create life at the end of the day, spending all that money.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You want to say that this is how I want to do things. And I know you're not the expert, and they are the expert, but I do think sometimes how you just feel. If you feel something that you need to change. So I did do that, and we flagged it up, and we did change it. And the third time we tried, we did have much more success. I had loads of eggs taken out of me, and we made, I think, 4 blastocysts, which is really good. But they obviously weren't very good quality, which I think is, again, something to change with the IVF industry. I don't necessarily think grading of embryos is a good thing, because they didn't freeze them. And then you learn in other clinics across the UK and abroad, they would have frozen those embryos. So was that a waste of a life? So hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and I think that's some of what it leaves you with, isn't it? All of the what ifs, because there are so many. Yeah,
so many. And one did die, I think, but there were three. And there was that one, I can't remember the grading now, it was like a 2BB or a 2BC. I was like, but they didn't freeze it. Well, how do they know that it couldn't? I know plenty of people. One of my, my friend's niece, she was a 2cc or something. She's literally the strongest, amazing 9-year-old now. Well,
and for some people, they're the only grades they're getting,
exactly.
So that's what they're going to go with. Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and also I think because for the clinicians, it's medical decisions, isn't it? Based on statistics, based on what's happened with you, hopefully what's happened with you previously, rather than generally. It's all very cut and dry, but for you, they're your babies, aren't they?
Exactly.
Potentially, maybe, but if you're disregarding them or discarding them in the bin or whatever, it feels like that. Like so that could potentially be my future children. And
exactly, okay. And especially if you have had to go through fertility treatments and IVF, they are the closest thing you've ever had to having a baby. There's countless negative tests and been told it's never going to happen. You create life. Well, in the clinic, it's like that could be a baby, especially like having had children. That's how my kids started off in this tiny little dish, and someone came with a microscope and graded them. And that it's really hard to think that I mourn for the miscarriages and the babies I've lost, but I do also mourn for the babies that were never saved. And that is not everyone thinks like that. And I think there has to be, I do get why there's has to be this and this and this, because the statistics of it not surviving. But I think I do wonder if you ever give them a chance, what happens. Like, on that third time that we tried, I was more annoyed, more cross, because I was like, "Why? It's my decision," and I was overruled. And they said, "No, it's not your decision. We will not freeze that embryo." So I had to make this horrible choice of discarding that one and then putting two embryos in for the transfer, which I didn't want, because as much as twins would be fun, that would have been really high risk and what have you. And I was really nervous, and I was pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, is there two in there? Which sadly did result in another miscarriage. But by then I was so broken. I think I'd already resonated that was going to happen, and again, that is how I live my life now. Like, I'm like waiting for the bad news, and that's horrible.
Mm.
But it's genuinely how I am, and I don't quite know how I'm going to change that. I hope that one day I will. But I look back, it was only 3 years ago. That's not very long. Had I had a baby at that point, my baby wouldn't have even been 3 yet. They would be two, just 2.5. They would still be a baby. So I think, you know, you have to give yourself some grace, time to heal from that. But it was that feeling of doom with the IVF is the feeling that I think I can never really leave, because it was.
So do you feel like that kind of loss of hope and being able to kind of engage in that is a direct result of the IVF, or do you feel like that was part of your personality before?
No.
Wow.
Before my IVF journey, I was happy. We had a nice life. We went on holiday, very much not having children lifestyle. We used to go on holiday. We had really good friends that we used to go away with. I felt like I had stuff to say. I was probably more successful in my career. I was, well, I also was younger. I was 10, but I felt like I was like not necessarily on top of the world, but I didn't really feel like I had much to worry about. Because I think sometimes when you start off in your life as such, your adult life, you think everything's just going to fall into place. This is what's going to happen, and whatever you decide your journey to be. I know sometimes maybe it was slightly silly of me to think that that was going to be the case, but I think it's right to be optimistic. It's not, I don't think my approach now is the healthy one. I think it's you go in starting how your life's going to be. This is going to be great. This is what's going to happen. The opportunities, the excitement. I think that's a nice attitude to have, because.
Well, yeah, but also I guess before you know any of this, you don't know, do you?
Bit of the devil,
so, why wouldn't we think that we're just going to have children and we're just going to this and just going to that?
I just saw a future that I was really happy with based on the life that I had. And, when 2017 did hit, I went to some really dark places. And I think between then and when I had my first child, it was more about being afraid of not being able to become a mother. And that was a real fear. But I didn't have to wait that long. It was only really, it was 2 years. It was long enough, but I do know that some people wait years and years and years. And, either or are really hard. Even some people waiting 5 months is hard. It doesn't negate anyone's feelings. I think there was I waited this. I was like, I think actually, if you want something so badly, it doesn't happen straight away. It's painful, really.
Well, an individual experience is exactly that. Exactly. Nobody else's can take away yours.
Exactly. And I wasn't damaged then, I don't think. I think yes, I was scared it wasn't going to happen. And yes, I was maybe a realization that I'd maybe been slightly naive about things, about the IVF, but because it did happen quickly and I did get a healthy baby and, albeit slightly awful birth stories and stuff, but that, I had a healthy child and I had him, and then 6 weeks later COVID happened, and actually for me the beginning of COVID was a really positive one, because we had our baby and then we shut the world off and we had the most amazing little 3 family. It was after that I think that I really started to change. And how I am now, it is a direct link to the IVF. That pure soul destroying feeling of wanting something so much. And I think I've even said this to Karen about, I felt guilty for wanting it because I had already had a baby, and people negating that feeling. Or at least you've got your son, at least you've already got a baby, and you you don't even really like the one you've got, or or I don't know, say your lifestyle doesn't really for two children, and really making me think, oh, was this something that we deserved as well? And I really struggled. I still now, the pain I've had to go to get what I wanted, essentially, to try and expand my family and bring a sibling into the world. Though the mental and emotional turmoil that I had to endure, it definitely affects me now. I can never really go into a life event without thinking the bad. And I never used to be. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Even when I've got a happy ending. I've got two beautiful, healthy children, and even then, it's the effect it's had on me. And
but also I think that kind of harps back to that. Well, you've got one, well, you've got them, but it doesn't take away what it took to get there.
No.
And nothing can. Like, with retrospect, we can maybe reframe some of that and whatever, but it's not helpful for people to be saying you've got your children. It's not particularly helpful for you to be doing that internally, because that doesn't. So somebody reminded me fairly recently that the reason they came to us, she now works here, so she won't mind me sharing this at all. The reason that she originally came to us as a client is because she'd heard me speak at an event somewhere. And I'd said, people say all the time, you've got your children now, so everything's okay. But it's a bit like you were planning to drive to Wales and you got there in your car, but it had no wing mirrors, the doors had fallen off, the tyres were all flat.
Or it's raining.
Yeah. Everyone's just hanging on for dear life. But, hey, you're here. Because it's like the total neglect of that journey and that trauma to get there. And IVF, honestly, it's horrific.
It's so bad.
I mean, I genuinely think they could use it as war torture, and people would probably concede. And I don't think anyone's prepped for that. Like, we all, of course, we sign up with the ultimate optimism and think,
oh, it's a baby.
We're going to get a baby. Yeah. And then, of course, if you get one, without too much rigmarole, because I think, I can only imagine, because I don't know this, that the only positive of IVF would be to get a baby at the end of it.
I think that is the only, it's a bit black and white, isn't it? You have a baby.
Because it's absolutely revolting.
Well, exactly, because the alternatives are
you don't.
Loss or you don't.
Yeah. And you still have gone through all of the stuff. So I can absolutely see how mentally you've gone through that first couple of rounds, but you got your baby. So then that's how that makes that fit, isn't it? It all feels okay. But then for the next baby to go and go again and kind of have your sense of self questioned a bit here and there and have to fight for it to be done right for you, all of which is, maybe not a necessity when we're.
Yeah, I found doing it the second time so much harder, and that was just me. And I really felt that pressure. We've already got one. Why do you want to have another one? I think even, like, God love her, my nan. So why do you want to go and do that? You went through to get the first one. Why on earth would you want to have another one? And it doesn't make you second guess yourself. You're like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I really going to put myself through this again? And it's that whole bitterness of really having to do it again as well, I think, because you think maybe when you do have a baby for the first time with IVF, you think, well, maybe my body might work again. We might be able to do it naturally this time, because you hear all these stories of people saying, well, we just started because it just happened after, because that is, lots of people do find that. I mean, it's that Oh, here we go again. It's really dark. It's a really
Yeah.
dark
Well, I
feeling.
guess that's the way other people's stories, I think, can be really helpful, but they can also undo us sometimes, can't they? Because you have all that. I think I said this to you when we spoke briefly on the phone, that after I mean, my fertility journey was long, and I eventually ended up with babies. But I can distinctly remember somebody saying to me when I had my first baby, "They always told you if you relaxed, it would happen." And I mean, we were talking double digits of years. Like, as if I've never relaxed in all this time, and oh, thanks for your advice.
Are you happy now? I think I had once, and I was like,
yeah, I feel like sometimes people just need something to say,
yeah,
but they don't think about the impact of that on somebody that actually has already had to go through a horrific amount of stuff that they probably don't know anything about and genuinely don't understand.
yeah. No, it's such a weird analogy, but have you seen 12 Years a Slave? No, about the main character. He literally is in slavery for 12 years. And then he does eventually work his way back to his family. And they've all changed. The family have changed. His children have grown up. And it's like, is he the same person? No, of course he's not the same person. He's had literally the physical scars he's had to endure. I'm not equating IVF to slavery because it's not the same, but the emotional feeling of you go through 12 years, 2 years, 2 months of hell, your own personal hell. Like you said, it's war torture. You're not ever going to be the same person.
No.
So, yes, you're happy, you're free, essentially. That if you've decided to come to the end of that fertility journey, but that it haunts you still.
Yeah.
It's a haunting.
Well, and also, I guess there still is what ifs, isn't there?
Yeah,
I mean, are there for you? Like, if you'd have been able to do whatever you wanted, would there have only been two?
Yeah, exactly.
Would there have had to be two? Because the impact of the journey has an impact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like, if someone said to me, look, if you don't have to do IVF again, would you like another one? In a heartbeat, yes. Because I kind of, when you have that lovely feeling of that newborn, I don't think there's anything, that might make me cry. There's nothing better, quite frankly, for me at night in the hospital when you're like, wow, you lived in me. How is that? Like, how did this even happen? It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
I would love that. I'd love to have another one. I'm sure maybe not after our 1-year-old conversations, but the opportunity to give life again. Yeah, but I can't ever say yes to that because that decision is not mine.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that also adds to it. I think sometimes that's what gives people the ease to say the things they want to say because they don't understand that bit. That it's not just there, like, for the freedom of choosing for you. I mean, it is a choice but you have to actively make it.
It's not just like let's have another baby. It's like this is serious. Like, are we really going to go down this route again? And the pain is too much. And it isn't a guarantee. That's the other thing. It took us such a long time. So I've got a 4-year age gap between my children. I never wanted that ever. But it's okay now. But I can see that it's harder sometimes. Sometimes it's easier. If we say, for example, we did decide we wanted to have financially, never going to happen. But was that going to take another 4 years? And then it's like, it's hard. Like those physical, practical decisions when you do have IVF completely taken from you. And it's really hard. And to have that decision that that's it now, no more, for those reasons, it's almost like not the right order of things. It should be because you've made the decision.
Yeah, it's definitely not how we're taught.
No.
It is.
No.
I mean, I can distinctly remember when I first started trying, which kind of makes me giggle now, but probably in more of an ironic way than anything, that I was really worried I'd get pregnant too quickly and it would muck up the life I already had.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I don't really want to get. I remember we were trying and I was like, I hope it doesn't happen straight away because we're going on holiday. Oh wow.
And now it's just so laughable.
I know, because you just think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's what's taught in schools. There's so like teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, you need to stop yourself getting pregnant. So when you have sex, that's what's going to happen. Like, just doesn't.
No.
Like, nobody had ever prepared me for the reality that you know what's going to happen. Nothing. Years and years of nothing.
Yeah.
And then a load of medical torture. Like, that's costly. Emotionally, financially, physically. Like, will take things from you that you will never get back. And you may not end up with a baby.
No, I know. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And I think, you know, if to go through all of that and then still not have a child, I can't imagine that pain, to be honest with you. And I think there's, to be honest, probably more unsuccess stories than there is success stories.
Well, there must be, based on the success rates.
Quite.
Because they're like 25% at most, aren't they? Which means 75% of treatments must be unsuccessful at the minimal. Not everyone's going to fall into the 25% bracket, are they? However many times they go. And we know there's some quite, I mean, not necessarily famous in general terms, but in the kind of IVF fertility world, aren't there, that have had countless rounds and don't have children.
Yeah, absolutely. And these people, I mean, I don't know what the statistics actually are now. I'm sure they're probably maybe a little bit better than what they were because the technology moves on. But some of these people are really healthy, healthy people that are trying to just have a baby, and it doesn't work. And it's like it's a frightening thing that people could go through that, and it just doesn't work, and they have to live a life without children. So part of me is I'm very thankful, and I know that I feel like I always feel guilty that I moan that I can't have any more, and it was really difficult, and that is definitely a repercussion of people getting into my head saying, "Oh, you should be grateful you've got 2 kids." And I am grateful, but it doesn't negate how I feel. But I do feel guilty sometimes of having that. Oh, it's hard, or a moan, or
but I think that's unfair, isn't it? I mean, the whole journey to get there is unfair, but also so is that expectation that just because you wanted it so much, it's going to be easier for you. Like, why would it be? In actual fact, statistically, like some of the research I read for here, work, whatever, like you're far more likely to struggle with your mental health, you know, perinatally, if you've experienced infertility and loss, if you've had struggles on the way, like, and that makes sense, doesn't it?
Totally.
And kind of what we're talking about here, and a lot of the time what we're talking about here is not actual like diagnosed mental health issues, but it's that kind of emotional struggle and the adjustment, because to some degree the survival of that kind of infertility stage and fertility treatment is a bit like brace, isn't it? Like you're just kind of hanging in there for dear life.
Oh my goodness, let's just wake up and see what happens.
And then you get to the end, like it's no wonder that you're left with a trauma response, essentially.
Absolutely. I always think, gosh, I'm so worried sometimes that my kids, they're going to go away, you know, like, and that's such a horrible feeling because that's what I've been used to, loss.
Yeah, I think that's really normal. I think it's really normal that people are quite anxious during their pregnancy when they've had, you know, infertility or baby loss struggles, because infertility often brings with it baby loss, doesn't it? Like you've got contrived miscarriages almost. I don't know that contrived's the right word, but you know what I mean? Like we've put ourselves in a situation where our body's not necessarily going to carry that pregnancy, and then we're going to have to face loss, like almost endlessly. And then we kind of get to where we want to be, and all of that is still there
in a box somewhere. And I think sometimes lots of people maybe put it to the back of their mind or their life because they do have their children and they get on with it. And I think sometimes it is really good to just say that, be honest how horrible it is. I think more people need some education about how bad it is. I mean, it's bad to have to go through that. There's obviously a good outcome as you get your lovely children, but the journey between that, it doesn't matter. The end game, if you have a pregnancy loss, a child loss, you become a parent or you don't ever have children, yeah, they're the end game, but all those 4 people have to go through the same process to get to the end.
Yeah, and in that they have the shared kind of experience and impact, I think. Yeah. I also think that that's what I was trying to get to, the fear during pregnancy. And then when your child's here, that fear that they might just die because your story isn't that you end up with life healthy children. Or if they don't, maybe you might.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of, I think all of that stuff is really normal. And people don't talk about that either. I think there's a lot of fear about other people might think they're crazy and other services might get involved.
No, you just don't understand. You've
I'm so frightened I don't get to live this out.
Grief.
Yeah.
Trying to do life with that grief is it's really hard. It's really hard. And it's the grief, I think. It's that you've only experienced grief with IVF, even if you end up having children, because it's still a loss of something along the way.
It's the loss of the journey that you imagined you would have.
Exactly.
The loss of, because let's face facts, if we all had our way, like the way that we imagined at the beginning, none of us would have these stories. No. What we'd have is much older children and like a totally different life.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's exactly right. And then you think, I'm glad I have my life because they're my children, and I
and you'd never give them back.
But you do have that what if, and like that's exactly right, isn't it? That it doesn't matter what the outcome of the IVF is to start that fertility trip. There is a grief and a loss of the ideal
that you didn't get to just have sex.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm pregnant too soon.
Yeah.
Rearrange your lovely life.
Rejiggles your brain.
And then would have the right to complain about your children or lack of sleep or whatever it is because you were worried about it happening too soon and you knew it was going to impact your life, not you struggled and paid through the nose for it.
Yeah, I think that's, and people say, well, you wanted them, you know what, you don't complain about them. I'm like, oh,
harsh, isn't it?
It's really harsh. It is really harsh because I think that I think empathy, to be honest, is people need empathy to really. And I remember lots of my friends say, "You're so strong. You're so strong." And actually, I'm not strong. I'm living through it now and dealing with that. That was a nice thing to say to me, but actually, what I really wanted to say to them in that point, and I didn't because I probably would have crumbled. To say, I just had to get on with it, and I'm not strong. It is. I was living through torture, mentally, physically, emotionally, and I think I think there should be some wider empathy of what really happens, and just say, don't try and give advice. Just say you're amazing. Just say, I hope you're okay. It's all you need to say to someone. It's hard. It is hard, and living with that retrospectively as well, and just thinking, I did make it. I am through the other side now, and I don't dwell on it a lot. I don't dwell on it a lot. It's only when there's certain life situations where it comes up, like you're going to have another baby or you're going to have a girl, and then it all comes flooding back. I don't live my life daily thinking, oh, I'm going to go. I don't. Yes, maybe how I approach things in terms of a negativity and thinking something bad's going to happen. Yes, that was adopted from the IVF, but it isn't. I don't think, oh, that's because of the IVF.
You don't spend your whole life thinking about the IVF. No, I don't. But I guess then in that way, it's much like other griefs.
Yes.
Where people think they're going to work their way through it, come out the other side within a timely fashion, and everything will be okay. That will be parked behind them. And actually what happens is we move on with our lives. We spend more time in joy and doing other things or whatever. And there are moments in time where we can touch that real, raw grief still, probably always and forever.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's spot on, actually. And I think if you think of it like that, then that is just a part of me now. And I think lots of people that maybe have had a fertility story other than, oh, shit, I think I might get pregnant because I would that. And even that, I think that's their own story, isn't it, really? You never know that you could easily get pregnant with a partner and not even have to think about it. You can still experience loss. And that's I think if you have had to not have the normal route, I think there is just an acceptance that it does shape you. And I think that's just it isn't a fun thing to do, nor is it exciting. It's really hard. It's really hard, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone really if they don't have to. But I think it's becoming more and more needed.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah, which isn't it for people doing life choices, and people, same-sex couples can do it. That's amazing as well. So there's yes, IVF is there for people that have a horror story, but also it is allowing people to be able to have children when they can't do it the conventional way as well.
Absolutely.
So,
And then also, those people sometimes end up with a horror story.
yes.
Because they go thinking, oh, we're both young and healthy and we pay money, we get a baby. Because this is all good, we can do that now. Not realising that their actual experience of that medical process will be the same as that of you and I.
Yes, because it is the same.
Their statistical success rates are no higher.
Because it is one size fits all in terms of the process. There isn't that they can't do anything different. It's still taking one here and one here and mixing it together at the end of the day. And if it creates an embryo, then great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. That they can't change that. It's science.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's crazy, to be honest with you. It's all I can say. Wild.
Absolutely.
An effect on my heart.
Mm.
But I'm grateful for. Yeah, at the same time, I wish I never had to.
Yeah, I get that. So we're pretty much at the end of the time that we agreed. Are you okay to leave it there, or is there anything else that you want to share?